Now we're going to move to the second half of our spotlight section, and this is quite exciting. Android 13 beta 1 dropped this week. You'll have heard on previous episodes that Warren and I had installed the developer previews of Android 13 and talked a little bit about that. But beta 1 has dropped, so if you have an eligible Pixel, go enroll it. The links will be in the show notes. Warren, is there anything you want to say about this?
So, you know what? First, though, I was thinking that, Google had skipped it altogether. I was thinking maybe they are going to be announcing it during Google I/O because earlier on, they had the roadmap that it was going to be a couple developer rollouts, like we had one and two, the first one in February, then the second one in March. And the word on the street was that the first beta was going to be out here in April. And then April came, and boy, by the time we got to mid-April, I was thinking that Google was going to push that thing out. And by the time that it didn't show up, and we got to the 20th of April, 21st, 22nd, and all of that, I totally gave up on it. And so surprisingly, on the 26th, on Wednesday, that thing just popped out of nowhere. I just saw the notification in my notification. I'm like, what the, you know? So there, I went and installed it, and it's a nice feature because so we have the first beta. So if you've been waiting, um, it's time to get in there if you wanted to. There are no issues that I see because my very first thing was, Ed, you remember when I think it was developer two, wherein the some of the symbols keys are not, you just couldn't activate them without turning TalkBack off. And then after a while, one could do a walk around, and then later on, they started working. Now, so what I did with mine was when I got it and I installed it, then I totally did a factory reset to be sure to check to see if that is still the case. And I'm glad that that is not the case. The symbol keys and everything else, behave properly just the way that it ought to. So I am happy on that front. And now let's talk about some of the new stuff. Most of these things are visuals, right, Ed? A lot of them are visuals. People that have sight are just going to enjoy that because, as you
Yeah,
guys
that's
can
right.
remember, Android has not changed a lot since that material design back in Lollipop. And so it took like seven iterations to finally get a new design with Android 12, which was a major, major shift from what we had. And so 13 is basically building on that and perfecting some of those visuals. And so 13 really is more into visuals, although there are some things here, especially privacy things that have been improved a lot from 12 as well. If you're opening an app, it's going to ask you, hey, do you want to get a notification from this or not? And so they're making things granular in Android 13 beta 1, and some things, may go away and some things may remain. That's how it always is with beta versions and things like that. But let's start with some of the important things that we notice the change. And let's talk about the first one. Google had the priority mode instead of the do not disturb in um, DP1 or DP2. And I noticed that they've backtracked to where now we have the do not disturb. What are your thoughts about that?
I really like it. I didn't know what priority mode was supposed to do. It was annoying. Um, I think it needs to be back to do not disturb. Obviously, they were the other side of they were opposite sides of the same coin, really. But I'm glad priority mode has disappeared. I didn't like it. Pushing notifications that way. I think it's better.
And the funniest thing, though, is that when that priority mode was there, I just asked the assistant, turn on priority mode. And it's like, what are you talking about? So you see, there was a disconnect between the assistant and the priority mode, which is basically the do not disturb. However, if I said, hey, turn on do not disturb, then it would work. So I'm glad to see that they've backtracked and brought it back to the do not disturb because it doesn't make sense. people have come to know it as do not disturb. And now all of a sudden you want to change it. See, that's the problem with Google, with the terminologies that they change. And, our other friends on the other side, the Fruitvale guys, they keep that consistency. You don't want people to learn something new. Keep things the same, keep things in the same place so that, where there's a new iteration of the OS, people are not needing to learn something new. So it's one of those things that Google need to get a better handle on. Stop renaming things, randomly like this. So I'm glad they brought back the do not disturb.
I agree. I think that's right.
That's right. So let's talk about something that Google didn't have for a while, and now that's the QR code. Now, though, we have it, natively there. So if you are one of those that is fond of using the QR code, everything you want to find out the QR code and things like that, we have it now natively on Android 13 Beta 1. However, the way that's implemented, though, you have to go dig for it. So you have to go into your quick panel and then go tap on, add an item. And in the items that you could add, there's now the QR code. And actually, I tried it and it works really well. So we have a good thing going on here.
I agree, especially because a lot of QR code apps get flagged as untrustworthy. So I think it's nice that there is a Google version of this, and these are quite helpful because essentially, if you don't know what they are, you can scan a QR code and then have access to a whole bunch of information. So a lot of restaurants use them now to bring up their menus. There'll be a QR code on the table, or you can scan a QR code back in the COVID days to enable you to check into a venue and fill out some information. So it enables you to scan something without needing potentially, say, to type in a URL or have access to that URL. So the fact that there's a trustworthy app or trustworthy method of accessing a QR code, which doesn't rely on a third party app, which might be a bit questionable. And lots of the third party QR scanners are fine, but it's great that Google's built one in where you can just go and scan that QR code and then access the web page or whatever information you need.
As for me, I always like, if there's a native thing, I always use the native one first. Unless there's no native whatever, then I go looking for a third party. So it's good to see that. And I'm glad Google finally did that. The next item that I played with and I like, although it still has a little bit of some accessibility issues, but I'll say maybe like 90%, 95% of it is good, is that if I copy something, for example, I'm on a web page, I'm on blindandroidusers.com, for example, and I open up an article there on blind Android users, and I want to select, so I long press, and those toolbars pop up like the share, translate, blah, blah, blah. And I tap on select all, then I tap on copy. Then there's a little clipboard thing that pops up near the bottom left of my phone that says edit clipboard. Now I tap there and it shows my whatever that I just copied there in an edit field, and I can manipulate that. I could take things out. So without the need of me, saying I'm going to go paste it in an editor somewhere, I could just edit that right within there. And then there's a share button there, and there's a copy right there. So if I finish editing right there, I could simply tap on share and share it in an email, share it on a messaging app or something like that. So I think that's a good thing that Google has done. Like I said, it's 95% accessible. Now, my reasoning for saying that is that when you're trying to manipulate the text, it's not quite as good, but it is usable. So I'm glad we have that. And this is the first beta. So who knows, it's going to get just a little bit better on later on. So at least we have something there. So what we're missing is for TalkBack to have that selective selection that I've been talking about, which is more important to me than knowing whether someone is wearing a bikini or not. I don't care about that. I want practical stuff. I'm a very practical guy. So give me things that I use, and I'm not trying to diminish the need of object recognition. I know people love this, or image recognition is a beautiful part, but the one that we've been asking for a long time, please, guys, could you give us that pretty baby? We've been waiting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing is there are other ways to do it. At least, I mean, I think it should be in talkback too, but at least you have other ways to accomplish that.
Yeah, so I really like that feature there in the 13 beta 1. And the next item, of course, may not be in other phones, but especially for the Pixel 6 Pro, for example. And I noticed, I think it's even in the Pixel 5. I haven't confirmed it, but I believe it is. The face unlock, but it's there in the system and gestures, and or system where you could find the fingerprints and all of that. However, when you go there, you're not going to see that. So you go to system, and you go to gestures, and you go to the unlock, and in the advanced, that's where it should be, but right now it's not showing up there. However, if you're in the main system settings and you search for face unlock, it'll show up, except that when you tap on it, nothing happens. It's not going to take you there. It's supposed to take you to that advanced area so you could set it up. So I'm thinking probably we could see this in beta 2, or maybe by the time that the final version of Android 13 rolls out, those of you with Pixel 6 Pros will be able to finally take advantage of the face unlock, as to using the fingerprint that is not very reliable.
And Pixel 5s, from what you've said, although
Yeah, so yeah, I think if you search for it on the Pixel 5, you could see it as well. I haven't updated my Pixel 5 to the Android 13 beta 1. Ed, you have it. Did you find it there when you search for Face Unlock?
I haven't searched for it. I'll have to have a look. I have to see if it's there. But
Yeah, because I think some people said that they have. I haven't, because
yeah,
mine is still on 12.
yeah. No, I'll have to have a search. It'll be interesting. I don't know why Android Face Unlock is deemed to be insecure, whereas iOS Face Unlock is not. The most Android phones use a different method of Face Unlock.
I think a part of that is because Apple has more depth sensors for your face unlock, and they've been able to set it up where it's one solid image, but you're taking your picture from like 4 or 5 different angles to get the same result. And because of the depth sensors, it can actually determine when you're using a photo or your actual face, where most Androids, for some reason, they haven't included as good of a depth sensor. So I could go and put a picture over my phone and easily unlock it.
Yeah,
So
well, though the very first Android phone, though, that truly uses Face Unlock is the Pixel 4. Other Android phones that have the Face Unlock, whether it's Samsung, it's not the same thing. It's the only Android phone that has a proper Face Unlock is the Pixel 4, and you cannot fold it with a picture. And why Google backtracked on that? Because in 2020, we didn't have a flagship phone to speak of. The Android. The Pixel 5 was, you guys know it. It was no bueno. It was a mid-ranger, and Google didn't
Google's
equip it
never
with.
had a flagship phone. It's a Fisher Price bunch
No,
of nonsense.
I
They made
really
it.
like the face unlock on the Pixel 4. It's comparable to what you have on the Fruitvale side of things. And like I said, you cannot fold it with a picture. So it's not to be confused with what you have on the garden variety of face unlocks there on the other Android phones. Not the same thing at all. And I think that was when they had that solely thing going on the Pixel 4. Of course, Google backtracked on that, but that's a solid face unlock on there. It works really well. And I think word had it that they were going to bring that back to the Pixel 6 series, and then somehow they didn't. And I think they're rethinking that, and maybe we'll have it again when they're finally done with Android 13.
I've just checked. There is a face unlock entry, but it doesn't go anywhere. Well, it does. It goes to security, but there are no face unlock settings. So I think it's
Exactly.
waiting to be enabled. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's there. So in reality, so it's being prepped for the next generations of phones that will support it, especially the Pixel phones, the new Pixel phone, the Pixel 7. I'm almost positive it's going to have it, and I'm certain, it may even be finally implemented on the Pixel 6. Or at least the Pixel 6 Pro. Is questionable as to whether it will come to the regular Pixel 6, but the Pixel 6 Pro will have it. So that will make it easier. But I wish they could just retro it even back to the Pixel 5 if they could. But yeah, the Pixel 4 is the Android phone that truly has a face unlock that can stand toe to toe with any other face unlock out there, be it a Fruitvale or iPhone or whatever you want to call it. You can fool that baby with a picture, you're waving over it.
Yeah. Any other Android 13 features you want to highlight, Warren?
Media player has kind of been redesigned to where it can even dance to the tune that you are playing. A really interesting thing going on there. And then, of course, like we said, some of these things are visual sighted. People are just in heaven with these things. The clock has been redesigned a little bit, so it's not that big thing that covers almost the whole screen on the lock screen. And then you notice there at the bottom left, we have like the home control. And I think that's a neat thing for Google to do. We have that, although it's not been fully implemented, but the whole idea is that you do not have to unlock your phone to be able to do your home controls. And for instance, if I use the magic word to say, hey, turn off my heat or, turn on the air, whatever the case may be, now that we're going to be getting into summer later on, it may want me to unlock my phone, but that will no longer be the case because you have a little thing there at the bottom left of the phone that you can just simply tap on it and interact with it. And also the assistant will be able to take advantage of that. But then the apps will have to be written to take advantage of that. But right now, that is not working yet. That's another feature that is there in Android 13 beta 1. And like I mentioned earlier, there's also something about files. So for example, you have a podcasting file. It's not going to be looking for other files that are not belonging when it says, hey, or like you have a camera app, for example, and wants access to your media, it will only be tied to media that are picture related, and which makes sense. You shouldn't be having access to non-picture files. So I think Google is doing things right, and I'm glad to see those things coming along.
It looks promising, and we'll wait and see what happens in future versions of Android 13 beta before the final version rolls out.